So I'm making this video really quick because what I want to let you guys know, you can go straight on the right lane. You gotta get on the right lane. Even or you can make it right now. So I want to make this video because I want to talk about how it is important to be obedient, right? And I remember a lot of times in my life, what happens is that we're called to do something, or I'm called to do something, or we are called to do something, and what happens is we don't have the correct obedience when it comes to doing it fast. And there's been times in my life where I've been called to do something, I've been asked to do something, and I never practice doing it right away. Because what happens is that God will, and through the voice of the Holy Spirit, and through discernment, and through, how do I say this? Through discernment, through spirit, through knowledge, through wisdom, we get called or convicted to do something, but we don't move fast on it. In 2018, I was called to do something. I didn't do it spiritually. In 2019, I was called to do something. I didn't do it fast enough. It cost me a lot of relationships, a lot of business, right? In 2018, I was called to do something spiritually. Because I didn't do it fast enough, it put me in a position where I wasn't spiritually disciplined to make decisions, right? Fast enough and discern enough. In 2021, I was called to do something. Or 2020 during the pandemic, I was called to do something. I did it, and I was able to make my first 6 figures. In 2023, you're gonna make a left here. You're gonna make a left here. In 2023, I was called to do something, and I took a little bit too long, so I may have missed that season. In 2012, I was called to do something, and it worked out for me. So the practice of being obedient is very important, because what happens is that the more obedient we are and the faster we are in our obedience, God will allow things to happen in business, mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, relationally, financially, spiritually. And so in this season of our lives, what we want to do is we do want to lean on the Holy Spirit. We want to be in prayer. We want to be around people who fast and pray and all these things, so you can be clear. Right? The Bible calls us to fast and pray. And mind you, I am no saint, but the Bible does call us to fast and pray. And one of those reasons is because when we do fast and when we do pray, that allows us to be clear on hearing God, on hearing Jesus, hearing the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit within us. It allows us to be clear and not lean on our own strength, not lean on the foods and the drinks and the juices and all these things. But it allows our body to pretty much deteriorate. And now it's like we have to lean on Jesus, and we have to hear his word, because something has to fill us up. What fills us up? More prayer, more fasting, reading the word. And in the Bible, when you look at Exodus, and when Moses freed you're gonna end up making it right. And Moses freed his people, freed God's people, or God freed his people, the Israelites, through Moses. What happened is that a lot of times, because Pharaoh wasn't obedient fast enough, what happened? He ended up losing his whole kingdom and dying pretty much. Because he wasn't obedient and let his people go, and he had a heart, his heart was hardened. What happened is that he wasn't obedient fast enough, so that caused hatred in his heart because of all these plagues. And a lot of people died because of his disobedience. And what we have to understand is that our disobedience is not necessarily tied to us. In the Bible, Saul, who Samuel anointed to become the king of Israel forever pretty much, and his family bloodline would have been reigning forever. What happened is he was disobedient and put himself as an idol over God, which was the first commandment. The first commandment is don't make an idol over me, or the first thing that God said, don't make any other false idols. He did that. What happened? His son was no longer able to inherit the kingdom, and it got passed to another bloodline, which ended up being David, as we know, David and Goliath, right? And so also during the Israelites, what happened is they were obedient in leaving Egypt, but they were disobedient in certain situations, and it cost them 40 years. A week, 2 weeks trip cost them 40 years. It cost an entire generation to have to live in the wilderness, although they were already enslaved, and it cost an entire generation to have to pass because they were disobedient. It caused Moses not to be able to see the promised land because it was tied to his destiny, but because of the disobedience of his people that he was leading, it caused for him not to see the promised land. And so my question is this: in business, in relationships, You know, the simple thing is reading the Bible, which is something that I'm working on. How obedient are we? Are we? And also, not only how obedient are we, how quick are we being obedient? Because sometimes God doesn't instruct us on why He's wanting us to do something. He instructs us to do it because so we can walk in faith. He instructs us to do it so we can walk with Him. He instructs us to do it so we can rely on His word, rely on His every step. Because we walk by faith and not by sight. Our job is not to see the end goal. Our job is to see Jesus, hear Jesus, feel Jesus, and say, listen, I have to do something different. So so when you read your word and when you meditate on the word and when you fast, when you pray, what is God telling you? What is He putting on your heart? How is He convicting you? What are the people around you saying, right? What is He allowing the people around you to say? What is He speaking to you in your quiet time? What do you feel on your heart to do? We need to start doing those things, and that can be in any area of our life. Yeah, you can make it right here. And that could be in any area of our life, not just the spiritual. It could be mentally, physically, emotionally, socially, relationally, financially, spiritually. Make a left. And so that is my question. How obedient are we becoming? How quickly are we moving in that obedience? How quickly are we moving in the fact that we need to do what God says, when God says, how He says to do it, and He's going to instruct us. And life happens in different seasons. And when we are disobedient, or when we are obedient after the fact, a lot of times what happens is it not only affects us personally, it affects generations, and it can affect generations for your entire life. So you can stop right here, it's good. So how obedient are you, and how quickly are you moving in that obedience? Remember that.